afternoon, and welcome to WBC Richmond's Winning with Wow radio show, hosted by yours truly, DrDanni. The Women's Business Center Richmond is an SBA resource partner located on Virginia Union's campus. We are the preferred entrepreneurial go-to for, I like to say, EIEIO: elevation, information, enlightenment, insight, and opportunity. Today, we have a local favorite in RVA's cultural cuisine, the boss chef herself, Mama Shell of Mama Shell's Cafe. How you doing?
Hello, I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. One of the things that this segment is entitled Bossing Up, and it really takes a look at successful women entrepreneurs, their journey. The business comes later, but who you are is the origin, or let's call it the genesis, since we are on WQCN's The
Yes.
Choice 105.3. So the genesis starts with you.
Yes.
You gave birth to something. But before we get to that, Michele, one of the questions I always like to know about is that if our listeners only listen for a short while, what would you want them to walk away with?
Wow. What I would say is don't be afraid to change. Don't be afraid to grow. Pivot is the word of the day right now, especially in this climate. And know that your worth is worth something.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. As I normally say, wow.
Wow.
Wow. Women on women. Wow. But,
Absolutely.
coming through this entire COVID scenario has caused people to do exactly what you have described.
Hmm.
You've had to pivot. And in pivoting, that means that you probably did a lot more catering. You probably did a lot more custom chef type things.
Yes.
But talk to me a little bit about, because, restaurants were hit very hard.
Very.
Women entrepreneurs were hit very hard.
Yes.
So, can you talk to me a little bit about your journey as a restaurant owner, and why didn't you just give up due to COVID?
Well, giving up is not in my nature, for one.
All right.
I like to think of myself as a resolution specialist, and I'm always looking to resolve and not looking to give up. I'm hard pressed to end a thing when I think that there's still life in it. And so that's one of the reasons I think that we were able to survive 2020. 2021 is bringing on new challenges. Whew, and I don't know. I thought we cleared the way, but
Right,
now
right.
we're faced with new challenges. And pivoting again is the word of the day now for me. Understanding how to get in the curve and go with the bend of things
Hmm.
in order to come out successful. Oh, I
That's,
like that.
I do. I was getting ready to say, I have a family member who has launched um, an inspirational retail business.
Hmm.
And she has um, cups and mugs and shirts. And it talks about being you. And it talks about beauty comes in all sizes, shapes, and
Hmm.
colors. And when you start talking about bending and going with the curve and
Oh, yes.
remaining in the flow of things, it made me think about that. I mean, isn't that what we in general, women in general, have been doing for such a long time?
Absolutely, absolutely. And understanding things that trend and things that are steadfast is important in this industry or in business as a whole. Knowing what works and just weathering the storm of things that are going to pass. Understanding those differences, being able to forecast, uh, understanding that you have choices. I always say, as long as you have choices, you're winning.
Mm,
And so when those choices are still in front of you and you can pick which way to go and line yourself up with that, you're okay.
preach, sister.
I know, right?
Well,
On a
I
blessing.
want to delve a little bit deeper into who is Michele Wilson.
Hmm.
Maybe not even Michele Wilson. I'm trying to think of your maiden name.
My maiden name, I am a Bradley.
All right,
My
Miss Bradley.
Yes, my name is Michele Bradley. My middle name is Evelyn. I was named after my grandmother. Um, I'm a Bradley. If you know the Philadelphia Bradleys.
All right, now shout out to
I was a
Philly.
Philadelphia
You
Bradley.
know
Yes.
my favorite, well, my favorite basketball. I think he has the best lips that basketball ever had. And that's Allen Iverson. But he got that VA connection too. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? So you got LA, you got Ladies Love,
Uh-huh.
LL Cool
Yes.
J
Yes.
lips, and then
Yes.
you got Allen Iverson.
And
So I
yes.
don't know how we got off on that,
That's
but I'm
okay.
just saying.
I can go down that rabbit hole with you all day. I'm
Well,
good.
shout out to Philly. But what talk to me about what was poured into you as you
Mhm.
grew into the woman that you would become, and then ultimately the business owner, the successful business owner. Talk
Thank
to me
you.
about that.
Thank you. I think, and that question brings me straight to my childhood and the block that I grew up on. And it's interesting because I didn't appreciate it when I was younger, of course. But in hindsight, I grew up on Black Sesame Street. I
All
promise
right.
you. Everybody was an entrepreneur of some sort. Uh, from the corner store to our dry cleaner was Mr. Harper was a black entrepreneur with a cleaning business. My pediatrician lived right on the corner, was a black pediatrician that lived above his business. My hairdresser right across the street. My dentist right at the end of the block. So I grew up with prime example of success
Mhm.
and entrepreneurship and black ownership,
Shout
business
out to
ownership.
Black ownership.
Yes, and so I it was almost given that we would travel down this path if it was in us. And so when I grew up and realized that corporate America just didn't suit me, I wasn't a good fit for it. I survived and I thrived in it, but the passion wasn't there, and I certainly knew that my growth was being stunted. And that's when somebody gave me a book on the entrepreneurial spirit, and that's where I found my tribe. I was like, well, here we go, all right. And so the examples that were set before me, the strength, the discipline that my parents had and instilled in us, the education that was given me, all propelled me to this day right here. And I think it's important to be rooted, to check out your roots and find out, because that's where you find yourself.
Wow. You
Mm-hmm.
said a couple of things. You mentioned your roots, you mentioned your
Mm-hmm.
tribe, you mentioned finding yourself in the midst of a description that didn't fit
Right.
the normal size. Some people got a size 7, but
Mm-hmm.
all size 7s they run different, and you were a
They
little
sure
bit
do.
different than that
I was.
that
I was
size 7.
always different from the environment that I was put in, because, of course, I grew up in the 60s, 70s, and my folks thought that, the college education was the way to go. And of course, I went and got the education and am grateful for it. However, it didn't feed my spirit of what was to come, and for me to grow in business and to understand that I can grow a business. I can generate money. Imagine
Wow.
that.
You know what? Money's just a thought or an idea. That's what I always tell my
Yep.
children. I'm like, if you don't have money, if you have a great idea, you might just be rich.
Yes.
You just need to know how to get other people to come out of their pocket and give it to you.
And give it to you.
But
Yes.
it's an idea. So that means that at some point you said, okay, this is my space. Was this your first foray into an entrepreneurial space when you launched MaMichele's Cafe?
No, I used to own a flower shop. Now this is hilarious. Okay. It's Friday. I thought it was Wednesday. It's Friday.
Let's have fun.
Okay. So I had the audacity to open up a flower shop. I had no car. I had no business plan. I knew how to do flowers. I knew how to purchase flowers. I knew how to make boutonnieres and corsages and arrangements. So I just opened it up. And the first time I got a phone call for an arrangement, I was like, "What?" I had to take. I had to go back out in this field and pick the flowers, make the arrangement because I had no flowers, and I had to take a cab to go and deliver the flowers. Honey, that was the most expensive bouquet that I ever made in my life. But that was what was in me. I was like, I'm going to do this.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
So
the
that sounds like the real creative
yeah.
spirit. I mean, that's like, as my mother would say, looking through muddy water and seeing dry land.
Woo! I'm telling you, I was doing the backstroke in that, but I meant to do it, and I did it, and I could tell you, I had no money, no car, like I said, and it was the most expensive bouquet I ever. So I was in and out of business fairly quickly.
Okay, okay.
However, it did give me that taste that I needed, because I think the journey is what it is for me. It's
Mm,
the journey where you start and where you end up. I get so excited to watch anybody's journey from infancy to full growth.
mm.
That's exciting to me and anybody. And
Well,
so,
I want to hit you on that because I
okay,
remember I don't know which time it was when we first were getting to know each other, and I found out that you mentor other
Mhm.
aspiring restaurateurs.
Yes.
Talk a little bit about that in terms of giving back, because I am a strong, number one, the prerequisite for me patronizing you is that your product is good.
Hmm.
But the thing as to whether I come back is service.
Right.
And so, do you talk to me about what you take someone through when they think they want to be in the restaurant business?
Well, I start at the beginning, and that's with you. I ask you, do you want a business or do you want a hobby? Do you want, clients or do you want friends? And you have to decide, and that's based on your behavior, your performance, and what you've been doing up to that point by the time you come to me. So I start at the very beginning with regard to where you want to go. And of course, there's but so far I could take you, and then I'm blessed to have a circle of people that I can reach out to that will help take that person even further.
Mhm.
And so it's important to start with yourself, not with what your neighbor's doing or your friend is doing or who's doing something across the street. So many times I've seen serial entrepreneurs that have 14 businesses and none of them are started
Yeah.
because they spend a lot of time fashioning themselves after what someone else is doing. But I like to start with you, your mindset. What do you think about yourself? And what do you think about what you're trying to do?
Yeah, because I've heard over and over again that oftentimes lenders are hesitant to loan for restaurant businesses because, most of them, I think they say they thrive the first 90 days.
Right.
And that's when all of their friends and family are patronizing them. And then where the rubber meets the road is after that.
Yep.
So you got to figure out, are people buying my stuff because of me, or is it, whatever it is.
Exactly.
So I mean, for you to have been in business and to still, every time I look at you, I think about that soul roll and that chicken salad sandwich. So tell me a little bit about Mama Shell's. Tell me about the menu. Tell me about, the stories of how things made it to the menu.
Okay, so I did the unthinkable. I was in culinary school and opened up MaMichele's Cafe brick and mortar. Like, don't ever do that. That almost landed me on somebody's couch,
Okay.
saying, "Lord Jesus, help me." Um, and so in trying to come up with a menu, one of the things that jumps out at me about that is that everyone says you have to be unique, you have to be this, you have to have a niche, you have to, and and at the 11th hour, I was sitting in the cafe trying to figure out what in the world,
So wait a
how,
minute, hold on. Let me just back up. You are in culinary school.
yes,
You open up a
at
brick
a
and
at a
mortar.
tender age, might I add.
You don't even have a menu yet. You sitting in a
No.
okay. I just was just trying to make sure, did I miss something?
And so I'm sitting there, and I called one of the vice presidents of Bill's Barbecue. She's a friend of mine,
Okay.
and I said, "I open tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. I don't have a menu. Oh my gosh, you know." So pot of coffee, and we sat down, and she counseled me on what are my favorite foods, what did I grow up with, and I discovered that the foods of my mother and my grandmother and what it brought, the love that came from it was the niche. And so that's what I did. And I
So
just
shout
took
out
it
to
back.
Bill's Barbecue and the unnamed woman who helped you go through a process.
Yes,
What I like about that is that you didn't hesitate to look into your network to identify someone who might be able to give you direction.
mm-hmm.
They were not giving you direction about what they did, but they talked you through so you could find where you were going to be in the midst of
Absolutely.
that cafe.
Absolutely. I tell you what, I was so excited, the people that I've met on my journey. I would have never met them in the cubicle where I was sitting, waiting to just expire. So I am excited. The people that were drawn to me and who I'm drawn to, I it, it it's I couldn't ask for a better group
Well,
of
talk
people
to
to
me
reach
about
out to.
this motley crew that I see you going
Hmm.
around with these
You're
Mike
part
King
of it.
Business
You're
Network
part
people.
of it.
Talk to me.
Yeah.
How did, so what blows me away is that I got to find my Philly connection because it seems like everybody who's anybody is caught up in the Philly loop. Hey, I went to the Greek picnic in Philly when I was coming up. That's the best I can do. But how did you and Mike become a part of that network?
I think how I met Mike is he came into the cafe and I just sat down and had a conversation with me. And in all honesty, I had no idea he was a salesperson, trying to sell me something. He was so
Smooth.
I'm gonna say slick, but smooth with it.
No, 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 no. He ain't selling cars, so let's not say slick. We're gonna
But
say
he was
smooth.
smooth with it. That I was like, I said okay to something. I was like, all right. And then when I got the bill, I was like, oh,
Oh, is that what I
is
did?
that what I did? And it ended up and it ends up to be a very very well-oiled machine, a very good connection, very good friendship that it has developed into. And from that, we have helped one another connect with others, and we built a relationship with other people that I wouldn't trade for the world, to be honest with you.
Beautiful. I feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's one of those elements of um, when I hear what you're saying and all of the little crooks and crannies that you've gone through and the crooked roads and the things
Mm-hmm.
that weren't smooth, I hear you talking about don't ever do that, but you did it and you're still here.
Yeah.
And then you talked a little bit about the stumbles and the this, that, and other,
Sure.
but you're still here. So it sounds like you got some favor on your life.
For sure.
Is favor fair?
It's no.
No, it's
No,
not.
it's not. But it's here.
It is.
And I am I'm a witness to it.
Amen.
Okay. I tell you, you have you have to believe. You have to believe. I can't imagine not believing in your higher power, not believing that there's something greater than you that helps propel you, that has a destiny for your life. I can't imagine that. I don't think that I would ever pursue what I pursued had I not believed that.
And that's authentic. I mean, we are in the household of faith over
Yeah.
here at WQCN,
Oh
but
yeah.
but it's a
It is
choice.
a choice. Yeah.
It's a
It is,
choice.
and I tell you, and that's another thing. When you take it back to yourself, when people want to know how to get started, it's with you. So what are you thinking? Again, what are you thinking? How do you feel? What do you what? How does that match up with what you're doing? You know, and 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 are you married to it?
See, Michelle, you get ready to help me finish writing this book. I'm working on a book right now called Life Under New Management. You remember the
Yes,
song Love Under New Management?
yes.
Did you know that that was a gospel song?
No.
Kurt Carr and the Kurt Carr singer, Kurt Carr wrote it and they performed it
Oh
before my
wow.
girl turned it into
Yeah.
what it turned into. And so I reached out to him some years ago and asked for permission to use that song in my public speaking
Oh nice.
platform. But I have not finished that book. But it really focuses on women in the Bible and it really speaks to everything
Hmm.
that you need to be successful in this life you were born with.
Yeah.
And the examples that you walk through with the women in the Bible helps you to see that you are a part of that. You
Absolutely.
bring that forward, and don't even get into talking about our African roots.
Hmm.
You're born with that, so you really are helping me
For
today. I
sure. For
appreciate that.
sure. Someone said to me yesterday, don't worry, it'll come. And I said, no, it's already there. I just got to show up. It's already there. And I think that that's why resolution is the key for me because I know what I'm rooted in. I know I know the deal he and I made, I know the promise. And no matter what, I approach it with all of that in mind. So I've already succeeded the day that got the key to the door. I
That
was
was
already
success.
successful, and people
That's
may
right.
think that's cliche-ish.
No,
But if you understand yourself and if you understand journey
that's
and
right.
if you understand travel,
That's
then you
right.
understand that you already set yourself up
The
for
steps
that.
of a righteous man are ordered. And
Hmm.
so when we look at that, like you said, we have the victory. And I know one of the things that my husband always says, shout out to Minister Kelvin Green.
Minister Karen Green.
He always says that, one of the challenges that they have when they minister to people is helping them to understand you already have the victory.
Yes.
So we can't walk around defeated in anything.
Hmm.
We need to recognize that we stand on victorious ground. And so that means that if we have to pivot, we do what?
You
We
pivot
pivot.
and you lean into the curve because sometimes that's where you get lost if you don't lean in. You know, in regards to what's happening with COVID and how the world is today, the world is not operating at 100%. Your business can't operate at 100%. You have to recognize what you're faced with. and act accordingly. And to get back to full function.
So it sounds like you're saying that the same way you scale up your business, you need to understand how to scale it
How to
back.
scale it back. One of the things that I mentioned to Mike, as a matter of fact, Mike King, he couldn't understand. I had closed one day during the week, and I said, "Well, we're closed on Mondays and Tuesdays, say for example." And he says, "Well, why are you closing that extra day?" And I said, "Well, I got to close in order to stay open."
Wow. Hey, wait a minute. Didn't Fantasia have a song, "Sometime you got to lose to win again"? So I understand that.
So that's what it
Sometimes
is.
you got to do that.
And that's, I think that comes from having clarity about who you are and who you are in business and what kind of business person you are.
So, Michelle, I'm going to stop right there because I remember one day we were having a conversation about that. And I think it was maybe a business roundtable that we were at. And there was some restaurateurs that were there, and they were talking about the struggles and the extended waits and things like that. So, in order to try to stay open and to do that, it negatively impacted their customers.
Sure.
So the quality suffers. And you talked about how important it was to maintain the quality of the food, the quality of the service.
Yes.
I mean that spoke to me. I didn't mention it to you then, but it speaks to me. No, but I would prefer, because there's a place that I like to go to eat, and their service has failed so poorly. And when you talk to me, you tell me you got a 2-hour wait, or you talk to me, you tell me, no, we can't do any takeout orders.
I would say, I'll share this with you. For this week, for the next 2 weeks, I closed the store in order to staff up, train the staff effectively.
Training?
Yes.
Oh, so we got to train people. I thought you just give them an apron and a pen and a pad.
Well, let me tell you something. That I fell into that, which is why I ain't got nobody right now, because people were just showing up, and the environment right now is saying, just give them a job, pay them a whole lot of money, and throw them in there, and that's not necessarily the case. If your goal is customer service, and if your goal is to turn out good food and to have people come and have an experience, how can you do that with no staff? How can you do that with staff that's lackluster? How can you do the stress factor in that will help produce less than your best? You have to look at that. So sometimes you got to take a seat so you can stand up. Right?
I like that. I like that. It's been awesome sitting here and talking with you, Michelle. I hope our listeners have enjoyed talking. Tell them how they can experience the MaMichele Cafe experience.
Okay, so currently we are catering, full service catering. We'll come to you. We have personal personal chef, personal chef options. Also, we rent out our uniquely fine space that you can come and have an intimate gathering. You can reach me at MaMichele's Cafe at gmail.com. MaMicheles.
That's one L, right?
One L.
You gotta help them out. One L. Because I made that mistake.
Yes. And cafe at gmail.com. You can also reach me on IG at MaMichele's Cafe, and also Facebook at the same name.
Awesome. And this is and has been the Winning with WOW segment for the Women's Business Center, Richmond. But you'll have to come back.
Oh, yes.
Yes. And we'll have a taste, a tasting.
I'll bring food.
Okay, you'll bring food. All right. Thank you so much. We're appreciative of all the things that Minister Foote provides us at the WQCN, the Choice 105.3.